Good morning. Welcome to the program Agenda. And if you're wondering why I am giggly this morning, well, it just occurred to me that certain parts of the agenda music bed or intro music is reminiscent of the Lone Ranger. So I just got or William Tell's overture. So it just kind of automatically put me in a cheerful mode, remembering the TV show The Lone Ranger. Anyway, welcome to the program Agenda. It's April 24, 2023. It's a Monday, a great way to start the week by being cheerful and of course being grateful. And speaking of grateful, maraming salamat po. Thank you very much to all of you who watch Agenda, particularly those of you who are subscribers of Cignal TV and those who make an effort to catch us on YouTube and on Facebook for those who do not live in the Philippines. Okay, so maraming salamat din to readers of the Philippine Star, and do read my column in the Star today, especially if you know people who are unwed couples, because I discovered in the last 2 weeks that many Filipinos cannot afford to get married, A, because they are poor, and B, because it is so complicated, they get so intimidated that they just say, okay na to, wag na lang, di ba? Baka next time na lang. And I do hope you read the column in Philippine Star, Talk regarding denied and deprived of dignity. Okay, now for today, I just want to say thank you to PLDT because over the weekend, our internet service in Barrio Capitolio got cut because of a huge tree that was uprooted and fell on the Meralco and PLDT cable. So, paalaala po yan sa mga barangay. A reminder to homeowners, learn to get into the practice of pruning your trees, because I did such kind of work. I learned to prune trees in the United States in an estate, and it makes a huge difference pag yung puno tao nang binabawasan ng sanga, or if you do annual pruning. Anyway, thank you, PLDT Home Fiber Optic Internet, especially here in Lipa City, Batangas. Okay, let's get on with the day for our daily starter. I chose our daily starter today because I was reminded by questions of some people. There are many Filipinos and the people living abroad who feel that they don't have the right things, the necessary things to start on projects, to start a business, or to get on with a plan. And I remember a student of mine in the Development Academy of the Philippines. Good morning sa inyong lahat dyan. Sana natatandaan pa nyo ko. Okay? And I remember that a student told me that wala naman po kaming kapital. We want to do business or have a backup income. And I said, are you from the province? And he said, yes, sir. May lupa ba kayo? Do you have land? Yes, sir. O anong tawag mo doon? Okay, so let's get on with today's daily starter. And it comes from the book of Exodus chapter 4, verse 2. Roy, if you would, please flash. What do you have in your hand, Moses? And this is a question that God asked Moses when he was sending Moses to Egypt to liberate the Israelites. And Moses said, I have nothing to do this work, this great work that you want me to do. And God said, ano yung hawak mo sa kamay mo? And it was a shepherd's staff, yung tungkod ng pastol. And God said, well, put it on the ground. It became a snake. Pick it up. It became a staff. Long story short, it became the first instrument of convincing. It became the first weapon to liberate the Israelites from the Egyptian slave master. So I'm quoting today's Daily Starter to remind all of us that if you look around, okay, even if you just look in the mirror, you will find something to start with. Are you a good speaker? Do you have the looks? Do you have the physique to do certain kind of work? Look around you. What do you have in your house or in your environment? Baka marami kang puno ng saging katulad ko, 'di ba? Then use that to your advantage. You don't build empires overnight. But if you can start with peanuts you can transform to centavos. Okay? That's our daily starter for today. Let's do a quick look at the news at the front page of the Philippine Star today, April 24, 2023. The headline is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Today's headline of the Philippine Star, masking in rail systems mandatory, says DOTR. It is now mandatory for all passengers and personnel riding all trains of the rail system in Metro Manila and around Metro Manila to wear masks, okay? Because there has been an increase in the number of cases. We are still verifying. Someone even sent me a pamphlet or an image of an alert level 1 daw back in Metro Manila. I hope Team Agenda can check with the IATF if alert level 1 is actually back in Metro Manila. However, the point is, the headline goes, masking in rail systems mandatory. You must now wear mask. So hindi lang eroplano, pati sa tren, and malamang pati na sa barko. Abangan natin ang susunod na anunsyo. At the top of the front page, PNP holds retirement honors for PNP Chief General Rodolfo Azurin today, but his replacement has not yet been determined. So abangan din yan. Okay. And speaking of abangan or monitoring or waiting, Pag-asa is monitoring a tropical depression down south, and it is not expected to impact anything in the next 3 to 4 days. Okay, kumbaga, merong tropical depression, but it is yet to be seen if it will develop into a tropical storm. In the big photo at the top of the front page of the Philippine Star are troops from the Philippine and U.S. Air Force posing for a photograph beside an AC-130 gunship at Subic Airport in Zambales yesterday amid the ongoing U.S.-Philippine Balikatan exercise. Ayan po. Kumbaga, who would have imagined that those planes and those forces would once again step in Subic Bay? And Pinoys among the first evacuees from Sudan, okay? The Philippine government is preparing to evacuate Filipinos from Sudan, where battles have raged since over a week ago due to a power struggle between rival military factions. There are an estimated 300 Filipinos in Sudan. Okay, unfortunately, none of the airports are functioning and they are still under fire, according to the president. So they're still monitoring as well. The center of the Philippine Star is a photo of tourists, local tourists, taking a dip in Bit River in Norsagaray, Bulacan. Yesterday, the State Weather Bureau has warned of hotter days ahead in May, And please be just to let you know, we will be tackling that issue, especially concerning students. Kasi po, nagkaroon ng warning the other day that towards the weekend that there was going to be a 50-degree heat index, etc. So a lot of parents were worried. We will discuss that with the DepEd spokesman in a minute. Okay. Meanwhile, the National Water Resources Board to prioritize domestic water supply, okay, if paano ba ito? Once the level of Angat Dam reaches 180 meters. So, kumbaga, pag tumama doon sa critical level, uunahin na yung inumin ng tao. Okay. Meanwhile, UN report, last 8 years, warmest on record since 2015 yata, sinasabi ng United Meteorological Organization, okay, that the last 8 years were warmest on records. And okay, a photo, bottom photo of the Philippine Star, Malate Church declared important cultural property. Matagal na yan, important sa mga Pilipinong Katoliko. And finally, last photo taken on January 18 shows hybrid rice breeding at the International Rice Research Institute in Los Baños, Laguna. The Supreme Court has issued an order stopping the government from releasing genetically modified rice in the market. Ayan na. Okay, so let's go for a quick break, and when we return, we will speak with the representative spokesperson of the Department of Education regarding the heat-related concerns, okay, for students. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program agenda. And as I mentioned, our first topic will tackle the heat-related concerns as far as students in the Philippines go. And then after that, we will also be tackling our looming rice crisis and the alleged self-sufficiency claim of some sectors. We will discuss that with our second guest. But first, let's tackle this issue about heat or temperature-related concerns for students, because on March 23, 83 students in Cabuyao, Laguna were hospitalized for heat exhaustion during fire and earthquake drills. If I am not mistaken, even more recent, there were students who were also affected by the heat because of soaring temperatures in the province of Mindoro. I have not had the chance to find the exact location, but I did come across it in the news a week ago, if I'm not mistaken. And then there are calls for the government to start considering reverting to the old school calendar. Now, let's now go to our first interviewee. Roy, if you would, please roll out the Betamax.
Attorney Michael Poa is the spokesperson of the Education Department. As a practicing lawyer, his area of specialization is commercial law. Poa finished his law studies from the University of the Philippines College of Law.
Okay, attorney, good morning. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Sir Cito. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you again. At good morning rin po sa lahat ng ating mga kababayan.
Okay, buena mano natin for this week. And it is always, of course, our concern for students. And the DepEd is the lead agency for that. Pwede bang malaman, can we know what the DepEd plans to do regarding this situation, or what is the DepEd already doing regarding this issue na the weather has become so hot? We are hearing about temperature levels that never before been reached, and students passing out or having heat exhaustion.
That's true, sir. Thank you po for the opportunity. But yes, noong pa lang nangyari yung Cabuyao incident, we were very concerned na of the effects of the heat dito sa ating mga learners. That's why right after the Cabuyao incident, we already informed our school heads that they do have the authority and the responsibility to suspend in-person classes and switch to what we call alternative delivery modes or ADMs pag ganitong hindi na po talaga conducive yung environment para sa ating learners. Not only our learners, also our teachers and non-teaching personnel. In fact, the other day, we also issued a memo to the field, again, reiterating and reminding them of this authority, and it's within their discretion to really suspend na po yung in-person classes once mapansin nila na napakainit talaga sa kanilang paaralan, and switch to alternative delivery modes.
Okay, attorney, what are the further steps being taken? Because clearly, binigyan nyo na ng authority yung mga principals, regional directors, etc. But what about making it predictive? I know that in other countries, even my wife, who is from the Netherlands, told me that in her time, during their time, pag tumama ng 30 degrees yung thermometer, uwian na. But some people are saying this can be very unstable or disruptive. Meron na ba kayo? Do you have coordination with the Pag-asa, or are there systems in place where it is more predictive, where a teacher can say, okay, Pag-asa said it's going to hit 50, like last Friday yata. There were indicators that Metro Manila would hit 50 degrees heat index. Meron na bang arrangement with Pag-asa to do forecasting on that level?
Opo. Sa ngayon po, wala pa pong talagang heat index indicative kung tawagin. Kasi because yesterday, for example, pinag-usapan na po namin yan dito sa DepEd. When we were talking to the regions, isa sa panukala is to actually suspend classes based on a certain heat index. Ang problema po na nakikita natin dyan, and it's an ongoing discussion, is that iba-iba po kasi yung sitwasyon ng ating mga paaralan. Maaring sa ibang paaralan at a certain heat index, okay pa naman, no? Hindi pa ganun kainit. Dahil probably because of the location, the ventilation, but meron din mga paaralan na kahit hindi ganun kataas yung heat index, ay nahihirapan na rin yung ating mga learners. That's why we wanted more flexibility on the school heads. Now, with the coordination with Pag-asa, that is something that we are looking into. Kung pwede nga pong matrigger yan. Right now naman talaga, meron naman po talagang coordination with Pag-asa in terms of information, no? But pagdating naman po dun sa nasasabi ng heat index, that's true. It's really something that is undergoing discussion right now. But again, those are our reservations at the moment, no? Because dahil iba-iba po talaga yung sitwasyon ng ating mga public schools, ay sa ngayon gusto natin na yung principals mismo or yung school heads, meron na silang wide discretion in terms of suspending in-person classes. But kailangan pa rin nilang mag-submit ng report sa ating school division offices for monitoring purposes naman po ng DepEd. Unang-una, para makita natin kung talagang napapatupad yung ADM. At pangalawa, para din makita natin kung ano yung mga kakulangan natin sa mga paaralan to see if we could make the necessary interventions also going forward.
I'm glad you mentioned the word kakulangan, Attorney Mike, and sorry kung medyo napapangisi ako, no? Because when you were talking about environment or the situation in the classrooms, you know, when I was hunting down thermometers for my personal use, just to monitor the heat in the farm and in my house, I had a hard time. Mabuti ngayon, medyo may Shopee na, etc. But I don't recall hearing about thermometers in every classroom and gymnasium in public, in DepEd facilities or classroom. Are we going to provide those classrooms? Kasi number one. Number two, what is the protocol? Is it the sole responsibility authority of the principal to make the call? Because some people say, paano na yung principal namin dito? Sobrang stickler for the number of school days. At sasabihin, nako, magpaypay lang kayo, etc. Pero hinihimatay na yung estudyante.
Yes. Thank you, sir. No? Yes, for the first question on thermometers, we'll really have to see if this is something that we can provide. I have to be very realistic with you. No? In fact, ang dami talaga natin kailangan i-improve sa infrastructure ng ating mga school buildings, classrooms, and even basic education facilities. And that's why this is something that we would like to address, although not specifically yung thermometer, but we created a school infrastructure strand, no, dito sa DepEd that will focus solely on our school facilities. We hope to address all these issues in the coming years, but obviously with the budget constraints, we cannot do everything overnight. But this is something, and rest assured, this is something that we are always looking into, and we are keen on monitoring kung ano pa talaga yung mga kakulangan natin. Dahil alam naman natin, and we have to admit, talagang marami pang kakulangan sa ating infrastructure. Now, with your second question, no, yes, that's why we are always in discussions with our regional offices and schools division offices to ensure na namomonitor din po talaga na yung mga schools na dapat magsuspinde ng in-person classes dahil nga meron na tayong balita o kahit sila nararamdaman na nila na napakainit ay dapat magsuspinde rin po for the health of our learners, teachers, and non-teaching personnel.
So is it a sole authority or single call of the principal, or do you recommend magtayo sila ng 2 or 3 people who will make the call para at least it's unanimous kasi parang walang bias?
Well, sa ngayon po talaga, it's the principal, no, that has direct and personal knowledge kasi kung napakainit dun sa paaralan niya. But it will be up to the principal kung gusto niya mag-assign ng team to at least advise her on that. No? But tayo, sa school division office, since the school division office is also within the area or the proximity of the school, at least po, no, yung ating school division superintendents will always be there to monitor and let our school heads know na baka dapat sa ngayon mag-suspend na tayo because talagang napakainit. And with the school days naman po, no, I think if we've learned anything from the pandemic, it's how to adjust to off-site learning. So meron tayong sense of classroom without borders ngayon. And that's why hindi lang naman dito sa pagiging sobrang init, although of course this is the most relevant today.
Yeah.
Pagdating sa mga bagyo, for example, sa flooding, no, hindi na natin kailangan ilagay sa peligro ang ating mga learners to just meet the number of school days. They can continue learning naman po outside the schools, either through online learning or kung wala pang capability in a certain area na magkaroon ng online learning, meron tayong alternative delivery modes which is composed of self-learning modules, projects, assignments. Right now, go ahead, sir. Yes.
Yeah, so sorry, Attorney Mike. As far as the distance or alternative learning mode is concerned, many people are under the impression, wala na, hindi na uso yan, hindi na kailangan, kinalimutan na siguro. What I'd like to ask is, has the DepEd sustained that option? Has the DepEd improved on it? Because judging from what I read in the news today of mandatory mask wearing and then yung mga return of level alerts or reinstatement of alert levels for COVID, mukhang baka mag-return of the comeback ang bullshit na COVID na yan.
Well, hopefully not, no, Sir Cito. Alam naman natin yung pinagdaanan natin nung pandemya ng 2 years na halos paulit-ulit yung lockdown. But to answer your question, no, hindi pa po iniiwanan o kinakalimutan ng DepEd yung mga alternative learning modes natin or delivery modes natin. In fact, under Vice President and Secretary of Education Sara Duterte, DepEd is now exploring a two-track direction. Ano pong ibig sabihin yan? We feel that in order to really address the problems and challenges in basic education, we cannot stick to the traditional solutions of just building more classrooms, hiring more teachers, kasi parati tayong catch up. You know, these solutions of building more classrooms and hiring more teachers, these are the solutions that all administrations have been doing since time immemorial. No? So we need to innovate. And that's why the Vice President wants a second track, which is to maximize technology. In fact, we are looking at institutionalizing blended learning. Why? Because in maximizing technology, baka dito po makatulong, it will supplement and complement yung mga traditional solutions. So we will keep on building classrooms, we will keep on hiring teachers, but at the same time, we want to maximize the technology that's available because baka ito na po talaga, no, yung mas comprehensive solution dito sa mga kakulangan natin sa basic education.
Well, that's good to know because it would really solve the problem and help the DepEd make more use of its funds instead of buying school chairs, replacing roofs, etc. But in fairness to the DepEd, yung mga buildings sa city, sa urban setting, solid and well-designed. It's just in the provinces. So, in any case, moving forward, what other plans are on track to address this environmental issue? Kasi napansin ko lang sa probinsya, ang mga building parang designed to fail. I'm sorry, Attorney Mike, hindi naman kasalanan ni VP Sara yan or the current leadership of DepEd or even DepEd because you guys don't build the buildings, right? You don't construct the buildings. It's the DPWH. What has been done to address that, that vicious cycle that you give the money, someone builds it for you, in the DPWH, and then you end up with a ruined school building in 1 or 2 years.
Yes, sir. That's very true. And that's precisely why instead of just having a office in charge of the school building projects, talagang ang isang ginawa ng DepEd ngayon under the Vice President is gumawa talaga ng strand with one USEC to focus solely on this. Why? Because we notice, as you said, we're in a quicksand almost, diba? We build school buildings, dadaan ng bagyo, sira na naman yung school buildings. Aside from that, we have a lot of projects na na-abandon ng contractor yung school buildings. So sa ngayon, no, under the new school infrastructure strand, ang plano po natin is to have closer coordination with DPWH and also to put in safeguards doon sa ating meron naman tayong MOA with DPWH. So we want to put in safeguards to ensure na yung school buildings natin ay disaster resilient at napapanahon dito sa mga dumadaan nga na calamities, not to mention itong heat index, itong napakainit na panahon na nararamdaman natin ngayon. So medyo maganda po ang coordination talaga ngayon ng DPWH. Hopefully, mapaganda natin itong proyekto na to. But again, as I mentioned, aside from that, we don't want to stick talaga po with the traditional solutions. We want to maximize technology kasi sabi nga natin, pag dumaan yung calamity, wala na naman tayong pasok, wala pa tayong school buildings, and then we have a problem of, our schools being used as evacuation centers. So yung mga bata, hindi nakakapag-aral. And that's why with alternative delivery modes and with institutionalizing blended learning, perhaps, learning continuity will be a reality. At kahit na may mga ganitong calamities, ay tuloy-tuloy yung pag-aaral. And that's why we called our education agenda matatag. We have to be resilient despite all the challenges that the country faces on a year-to-year basis.
Okay, well, I do hope that you guys can spend the money wait a minute. Okay, I do hope you can spend more of the money in giving tablets to the students, setting up barangay Wi-Fi's. Maybe you should work closer with DICT than DPWH. But anyway, Attorney, thank you very much. Sorry, medyo double feature tayo ngayong araw at we have to let you go. But thank you, and please let us know if there are more announcements you want to make. The DepEd is always welcome here in the program.
Thank you, Sir Cito. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you again for having us on your show at magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Okay, that is our first interviewee, Attorney Michael Pua of the DepEd spokesperson. Let's now go to our next guest. And ito po, medyo pinagtatalunan. May rice crisis ba o wala? At paano mangyayari na magkakaroon tayo ng rice, rice self-sufficiency? What new has been done that we don't know? What new thing has been done that we don't know about? Let's go for a quick break. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Is there going to be a rice crisis come June? Will the government import 330,000 metric tons of rice or not? Will we ever have rice sufficiency, and how will that happen? Let's find out from our resource person, Abraham, Roy, please roll out the Betamax.
Raul Montemayor is the national manager of the Federation of Free Farmers Cooperatives Incorporated, a nationwide federation of agricultural cooperatives in the Philippines. Montemayor is also a private sector advisor to the Department of Agriculture.
Good morning, Sir Raul Montemayor. Welcome to the program agenda.
Yes, magandang umaga rin, Sir Cito. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, first point, medyo nahihilo na talaga kami. We are so confused already. We don't know what to make of all these claims, announcements, pronouncements, and predictions. Sabi, first it started with the NFA saying, or the DA saying, we will have to import 330,000 metric tons of rice. And then 2 weeks later, they said, no, we're no longer going to import. And then you guys allegedly said, we're going to have a rice crisis. And the president said, no, there will be no rice crisis. And then the president said, well, maybe we will import rice after all. What's going on, Sir Raul?
Medyo magulo nga ito, no? Kasi we're talking about different things at different times, no? But siguro, let's compare the situation now with 2018 when we did have a rice crisis, di ba? Mm-hmm. And at that time, ang nangyari was naubusan ng stock yung NFA. Pangalawa, medyo maliit yung overall stock. So that when we enter the lean months from July, August, September, where we have the lowest harvest during the year, sumipa ang presyo, no? Mm-hmm. And that is what we are warning about because this year, paubos na ang stock din ng NFA. In fact, by July 1, it might hover near zero stock level ang NFA, no? And then the overall stock of the country by July 1 will be sufficient only for about 30 days because our excess harvest in 2022 that we carried over into 2023, medyo maliit, no? Medyo maliit. We suffered a significant decrease in production last year. So you have relatively little stocks, not shortage, but tight supply. And then you have the NFA running out of stocks. It looks like 2018 again, unless we are able to do something soon about it.
Okay, through the years, the solution has always been importation.
Yes.
Why is the option or the solution of importation now becoming a political issue? Parang some people see it as if we import, we're going to look bad. Some people are saying if you don't import, you're really going to look bad.
Yes. When we had the rice crisis in 2018, NFA had the monopoly over imports, no? But it acted very slowly. In fact, too little, too late. That's why we had the rice crisis, no? Pagdating ng 2019, they said, alisin na yung NFA sa pakikialam sa merkado. Let's liberalize the rice market. And they passed the rice tarification law. And they relegated the NFA to just buffer stocking, no? Meaning maintaining stocks for calamities. And in that process, they said NFA can only secure the buffer stocks from local rice farmers. And number two, it cannot be allowed to import anymore because the importation will now be handled by the private sector. No? So nandito na tayo ngayon sa 2023 na uubusan ng stock ng NFA for buffer stock.
But whose fault is that? Kasi we've had this problem since time immemorial. Why is it now a problem? In fact, one of the young people in Team Agenda was saying, is that a today problem? Was that a problem created during the Duterte administration, the Arroyo administration? Why is this situation here?
Under the rice tarification law, that buffer stock of NFA is supposed to be reserved for calamities, pagkalang bagyo, o kaya kalindol, no? Oh. But maybe for some good reason, they release some or many of those stocks through Kadiwa outlets. and as rice allowances to government employees. And I understand even congressmen were asking for rice allocations from NFA kahit walang calamity, no? So, naubos, no? And normally, pagka naubos yan, NFA can replenish by buying from local farmers, not by importing, ano? Ang problema ngayon, yung presyo ng NFA na 19 pesos per kilo, mababa compared sa presyo ng mga traders. So, walang mabili ang NFA unless taasan din niya yung presyo niya. No? So, ang solusyon nila, mag-import, which is bawal under the law.
Okay, so NFA cannot import. The authority to import or the right to import is given to the private sector.
Correct.
Is the private sector importing as required, and are they dictated on by the Department of Agriculture, who ultimately will have to make the call na we're going to have a shortage, you guys better import or else we will? Meron bang ganong situation?
Under the law, wala na yung ganyang mga government intervention or persuasion, no? And the tricky thing here is the government, the private sector will import only if they will make money, no?
So we've legislated cartels in the Philippines.
Well, ang sabi nila kasi, by freeing up importation to the private sector, you will encourage competition, you know, and then these importers will compete against each other, and eventually you will get the lowest price possible, no? I don't think
Which never happened.
it doesn't happen, actually, no? And now, the international prices of rice are going up. So that is reflected now in the local market where the retail prices are also going up. If it goes up too much, will the private sector import? Yun ang question, no?
Okay, well, will the private sector import? Can the government make them import? But can they even actually import anything, given that Thailand and Vietnam have already colluded or come to an agreement na teka, wag mong pakawalan yung bigas mo. Let's drive the prices up. And then you have this tension in Taiwan. I think everyone is going to be hiding their rice for the next year or 2 years. What does that spell? How does that spell for the Philippines? Tayo ba isang tasa na lang ng kanin kada tao in the next year or what?
Oh, meron pa Cito yung weather disturbances in China and Pakistan, which will cause a drop in international supplies. No? But I think the lesson that we learn here from the law is you cannot leave everything to the private sector. This is the philosophy of our economic managers kasi. Alisin ang gobyerno dahil corrupt, mabagal, the private sector can do a better job. Leave them alone and the market will take care of itself. That is their trade liberalization philosophy. No? And maybe in normal periods that will work. But in what we are facing now with so many internal and external disturbances, you cannot leave everything to the private sector. And unfortunately, the law has tied the hands of government, no? So that when government starts thinking about importation, it will end up violating the very law that it pushed in 2019 to liberalize the market, no? Kaya,
has anyone like the Free Farmers Federation decided to take up this law to the Supreme Court? Because clearly the law is not working. If you did a thorough investigation, we might come up with the finding that this law was crafted by the private sector to be passed by legislators, and now the Filipino public is going to suffer. I mean, have you thought of bringing this to the Supreme Court?
Actually, our move has been to push for amendments. No, unfortunately, the people who push this law, the legislators, insist that it is a good law, and it is too early to amend or tinker with.
Definitely, it's good. It's good for their business.
Oo. In fact, isa pang problema niyan. Ngayon, problema yung presyo ng bigas, tumataas, no? But for the first 3 years of that law, ang naging problema was we over-imported. And the result was a severe glut in the market that
No.
brought down the prices of our farmers. No? Kawawa yung mga magsasaka. Ngayon, kawawa ang consumer. But all the time, the people in between, the traders and importers, they're the ones laughing their way to the bank. No? Silang nakinabang.
Eh, yung mga palayan dati dito sa Lipa, sa area namin, ayun, housing project na
Yeah.
ng isang mayamang family. So,
Yes.
ayun. But anyway, going back to the rice thing, Mr. Montemayor, how bad is the situation? Because I think every Filipino watching the program now wants to know, paano ba magtitip? Kasi sabi nila, magtipid ka na sa kuryente. Conserve energy.
Yes.
Then conserve water. Okay? And then now, are we now going to come up with a rice conservation, hindi rice tarification program? Because wala ka nang kakainin o hindi mo na kayang bumili ng bigas.
Ang critical na paghandaan natin ngayon is the July 1 stock level. Because July, August, September, we will have very little harvest. The main harvest will come in mga late September pa, October, November. No? So normally, pagdating ng July 1, we shoot for at least a 60-day stock level. So that meron tayong bigas.
Yeah, where is that going to come from?
Imports. Unfortunately, by this time, our only option is imports because the carryover stock from last year is already there, no? And then the dry season harvest patapos na. We cannot do anything about that anymore. So anything that will augment the local stock will have to come from outside.
Okay, how many tons are we talking about?
About, for the first semester, siguro mga 2 million tons, of which about half has already come in.
Okay.
Okay, so mukhang...
Kasi ang nadidinig lang namin 330,000 metric tons.
Yung 330,000 tons sa Cito is just to replenish the buffer stock of NFA. No? And that buffer stock is not even considered part of regular supply kasi itatago mo yun for calamity, di ba? Hindi mo naman ibibenta no?
So ano
iba
nangyari sa market?
So, kung hindi pumasok yung 2 million tons by July 1, half of which already came in, kung say yung balance na 1 million medyo matumal, we could have a problem by July 1. Hindi naman tayo maubusan, pero very tight yung supply. We might have a repeat of the 2018 rice crisis, no?
Tataas ang presyo.
Tataas ang presyo, yes.
Okay. You can still buy rice, you can still eat rice by the bowl, not by the cup, but you are going to pay by how much more? Double? Kasi ang pangako sa atin ni President Bongbong Marcos 20 pesos. Yun yung election promise niya. Ngayon, ang pinakamura 25 dahil nagpalugi ng 10 ang kadiwa.
Yes.
Now, if we continue on this trend and the crisis does occur, how much per kilo will be the average cost of rice?
Mahirap din mag-speculate. No? But again, in 2018, the regular rice that the poor used to buy was selling at about 36 to 38. Nung nagkaroon ng rice crisis, sumipa yan.
Yun yung tawag na NFA rice.
Similar to NFA rice, yes.
Oh.
38, ganyan. Sumipa siya ng 43, 44. And then the government stepped in and allowed the imports. Finally, then bumaba na siya. No? So, sana hindi mangyari yon, no? And the government has to watch out because every time we have something like this, may magsasamantala na naman like what happened sa onion, sa sugar, etc. No? There is already a crisis and people who earn a lot of money out of the crisis will again take advantage, no, and create an even deeper supply problem. So,
okay, do you actually believe this myth, this legend, or this ewan ko, the fairy tale of rice sufficiency in the Philippines?
Mahirap kasi yan no? We can do it actually Cito, no? Kasi ang shortage natin mga 10% lang naman, 10 to 15% of our total requirement. So invest in irrigation, provide some fertilizer subsidies, doable siya, no? Ang problema natin sa rice industry, yung cost of production natin napakataas, no? So we could be self-sufficient, but our cost to produce the rice is very high, and then we bring in the imports, no? Magkakaroon yan ng glut sa market, no? Babagsak ang presyo, malulugi yung mga magsasaka kasi napakataas yung cost of production nila. So unless we address the issue of efficiency and competitiveness, self-sufficiency cannot be sustained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, so we have to attend to the cost of production issue first. No? By lowering the cost of production, we can compete against imports. And then we could probably, because we will become very productive, then we can move towards self-sufficiency. No? Pero hindi mo address yung mahal yung bigas mo. Let's say, ang bigas mo is 45 pesos per kilo. Yun yung break-even price ng mga magsasaka natin. And then the imported price comes in at 35 pesos. No? You will not be able to sell at 45. You will have to go down to 35 in order to compete with those imports. No? But at 35, you are losing money already. No? So you cannot sustain that kind of activity where you are losing because your cost of production is very high.
Yeah, but whatever happened to all of those revenues derived from the importation going to farmers?
Yes, well, that was the intention, to slowly improve the competitiveness and reduce the cost of production. We have yet to see whether it is working or not. No, we're spending billions of pesos for that. No, hindi natin nakikita because kung talagang epektibo yan, bakit bumagsak ang presyo na ang production natin noong 2022? No? Why are we having this rice crisis now if we are really able to improve our competitiveness and our production?
Yeah, because according to the DA and the government, because the price of fertilizer shot through the roof because of Ukraine, Russia, there were logistics challenges, etc.
Yeah.
Do you see any improvement in 2023 or same old pa rin?
2023, bumaba na presyo ng abono. No, from about 3,000, it has gone down to about half of that. Ang looming problem natin is El Nino. No? Kasi if it hits us during this, ngayon, ang init-init, di ba?
Oh.
And then the farmers are just finished their dry season crop. They will start planting when the rains come in May, and then they will harvest that sometime in end of September, October. Pagka hindi dumating yung rains on time, then you push back planting and you push back harvesting later in the year. You will in effect prolong the lean month period. Yung July, August, September, baka magiging July, August, September, and first half of October. No? And then you have very little stocks by July 1. No? So how do you...
So we're going to go back to the original 1960 cycle na ang anihan November.
Baka.
Because I remember that was a cycle in my short pants day. Uuwi kami November sa Nueva Ecija dahil panahon ng anihan.
Yes. And ang isa pang pwedeng effect ng El Nino, in fact, now we're hearing that the dam levels are very low, no? Yung water level sa dam, no? Sa mga dams kasi natin, first priority niyan, tubig pang inom ng tao eh. Second priority niyan, kuryente. Third priority is irrigation. Third priority lang siya. So kung kulang na sa tubig at kulang na sa kuryente, wala nang ipapaluwal ang mga dams for irrigation, then that will affect production. So we have to look at all these possibilities, I think. We're talking of the short term is the July, August, September. The longer term is what happens next year, no? As a result of El Nino.
What is the situation as far as the Association of Rice Farmers or the rice farmers in the Philippines? Because I remember in the sugar producing provinces, when planting sugar just became such a big problem, a headache, and became too costly and inefficient, they were given some authority to become importers because they couldn't produce it as much, they weren't as competitive. Parang, pabayaan nyo naman kami muna yung mag-import imbis na mga private traders. Is there anything similar for rice producers?
Sinubukan nila yan nung before RTL. Sometime in 2017, 2018, they gave quotas to farmer cooperatives and farmer organizations.
Yeah.
Ang problema, these organizations don't have money. They don't know how to import. No? So what happened was they ended up selling the rights to the same people, mga financiers and the traders. No? Nangumisyon lang sila. No? People say, okay lang, at least nakakumita sila, pero ilan lang ang kumita. Yung mga farmer leaders lang kumita, hindi yung mga membro nila. It became a racket, no? Actually, no? And they use these farmer groups as dummies to import and at the same time to bring in undervalued rice. No?
So once again, walang watcher, walang enforcer. So na pinagkitaan lang sila. Anyway, Sir Raul, thank you very much for your time this morning. We've hit the finish line, pero I pray to God that God Himself will take over this situation because kung hindi, magugutom ang Pilipino. Thank you very much for your time,
Thank you.
Sir Raul.
We hope so too. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, that's Sir Raul Montemayor, National Manager, Federation of Free Farmers. Let's go to our closing blessing today, which ironic, but I have faith that God will hear our prayers. It comes, from Genesis chapter 26, verse 3. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. Manalig po kayo sa Panginoon. Trust in God. Have faith, not in man and not in your bare hands. And I wish you well. Please keep it here on One News. Thank you.